Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming out in the cold. I'm wearing like 7 layers. My name is Aliza Shatzman. I'm the president and founder of the Legal Accountability Project, or LAP. We are a nationwide court accountability nonprofit fighting sexual harassment and misconduct in the courts. Today, I'm going to talk about the lack of accountability in our courts, and importantly, how we can fix it. Because as recent elections have shown, we are not powerless. You know, a fair and independent judiciary isn't just the hallmark of our legal system, it's the hallmark of our democracy. When democracies are threatened, dictators come after the courts and the legal system first. But at a time when the rule of law is particularly salient, there's no greater threat to the rule of law than the fact that federal judges who interpret our laws are exempt from many of those same laws, ruling on sexual harassment and discrimination cases while too often harassing their clerks behind closed doors. When we think of the courts, we probably think of 3 things: Supreme Court and its casual relationship with ethics, the lower federal courts ruling against Trump administration lawlessness, and more recently, our local Pennsylvania courts. In this election, we really got the word out about what they do and why they matter. And I was in the trenches with you all as a committee person, talking to voters with the Upper Dublin Democrats. Woo! But there's a darker side to the judiciary, one most people don't talk about, but one that guides my life's work. A lack of accountability for judges who abuse their power, particularly by mistreating their staff. You know, my life wasn't always about fighting for fair and accountable courts. I went to law school to become a homicide prosecutor, to provide a voice for victims of crime, and to hold bad actors accountable. It's standard practice for young lawyers to clerk, basically work for a judge for a year before practicing law. So I, like thousands of other young lawyers, did that. Unfortunately, during my clerkship, I was harassed, unjustly fired, and retaliated against by the judge I worked for. He would tell me I was bossy like his wife, and that he just felt more comfortable with my male co-clerk. He fired me over the phone during the pandemic, telling me I made him uncomfortable and lacked respect for him before hanging up on me. A year later, when I'd started working at the U.S. Attorney's Office, the judge gave a false negative reference about me, causing the U.S. Attorney's Office to deny me a security clearance and revoke my job offer. When I tried to hold him accountable, I discovered law clerks like me cannot sue because 30,000 people who work for the federal courts are exempt from all federal anti-discrimination laws. Federal judges have legal immunity for harassing people. So, I launched LAP to correct injustices I personally experienced, a lack of transparency and accountability in the courts. I hold the judiciary's feet to the fire every day, forcing change in one of the most unaccountable areas of our government. Let's talk about a couple ways I do this. First, we run a nationwide clerkships database, basically Glassdoor for judges. Clerks review the judges they work for as managers. Judges can't see this, ensuring honest reviews. And students applying for clerkships pay a small fee to access a wealth of information to avoid abusive judges. Second, legislative advocacy around several bills in Congress. Because while LAP's third-party solutions don't wait on anyone to make the change that's necessary, the best way to fix these problems is to change the laws. Sadly, Congress is unwilling to hold judges accountable. To be clear, Congress has at least 4 tools at its disposal: legislation, oversight, letters, hearings, appropriations, so zeroing out the judiciary's budget, tying their budgetary requests to meaningful benchmarks for reform, and the bully pulpit. Members of Congress do not have the fire in their bellies to fight. They are not galvanized to act. Congressional Democrats are too busy running around with their hair on fire, talking about the orange man in Washington, to solve any other problems. Fortunately, solutions exist, including one of the action items for today, including the Judiciary Accountability Act, or JAA. That is a bill that would extend Title VII protections and whistleblower protections to 30,000 exempt judicial branch employees. It is antithetical to democracy to exempt from justice law clerks, permanent court staff, and federal public defenders, those who support the daily functioning of our courts, ensuring others' rights while lacking rights and protections themselves. Now, these problems are pervasive. Around 30% of judicial clerkship experiences are negative, and around 1 in 17 federal judges are abusive, including to lapse survey data. And as many as 106 federal judges committed misconduct by harassing their clerks in 2023, according to the federal judiciary's own data. But just 3 judicial misconduct complaints were filed by law clerks in 2023. 106 versus 3. Why? Because law clerks are not legally protected against retaliation for reporting. The judiciary opposes extending legal protections to its employees because they know they can simultaneously shield themselves from all accountability. Judiciary employees are some of the only workers who remain exempt from Title VII. Now, Title VII, when it was passed in 1964, only applied to private businesses. But in the 90s, Congress extended Title VII to itself and to the executive branch. And the judiciary vociferously opposes extending Title VII to itself from the 1990s through till today. Pretty ironic, considering they want to be exempt from the very laws they interpret. The judiciary gives only one reason for this ridiculous exemption: judicial independence. What do they want to be independent from? The law? The judiciary is not a superior branch of government. They are a co-equal branch, meaning oversight is Congress's job. Unfortunately, Congress has abdicated this crucial check on the courts at a time when federal ethics and accountability are salient in other areas of our federal government. Democrats argue the courts are the backstop for our democracy, while turning a blind eye to judges' lawless conduct behind the bench. There are few greater threats to our democracy than allowing judges to remain above the law. Judges are some of the most powerful members of our government, ruling on issues affecting our lives, livelihoods, and liberty. They should be held to the highest ethical standards, but right now, they are held to none. Correct. And judges who harass their clerks often have a warped view of the laws they interpret. For example, former Alaska federal judge Joshua Kindred resigned in scandal last summer. Turns out that during his 5 years on the bench, he dismissed every Title VII case that came before him. Harassing people behind the bench, protecting harassers in front of the bench. The judiciary affects all of us in more ways than we realize. Judges cannot rule fairly on laws they are not subject to. And we cannot have confidence in the judiciary as a fair and neutral arbiter of disputes when they are not bound by the laws governing the rest of us. Remember, we are not powerless. Congress, including our Pennsylvania congressional delegation, has abdicated its oversight responsibility while abusive judges flout congressional authority because members know their constituents won't hold them accountable on this issue. They think judicial accountability doesn't matter to voters, but they don't understand that this issue affects all of us. At a time when we need more experts in Congress, there is not a single judiciary expert to champion this issue. So, write your senators and tell them to support the JAA to protect judiciary staff. And if they won't, replace them with someone who will. Elections are how we hold Congress accountable to start holding the judiciary accountable. Thank you.